In this video, we're talking about what you should do with a fresh Steam Deck. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. And look, I gotta come clean with you. I am at 62,000 subscribers. I would love to hit 100K by the end of the year. I double checked, 70% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you're new here or you've been here for a while, please help me out and subscribe to the channel. If every single one of those 70% of viewers subscribed, I'd be over 100,000 subs. So help me out and do it, please. But for today's video, we're doing something a little bit different because I found myself in a very interesting situation. I bought a second Steam Deck recently. It's a refurbished 1TB OLED Steam Deck model. I got it for 520 bucks directly from Valve. I was lucky enough to get one of these when they were in stock, and I figured this was a good opportunity to do a video about how to set up a fresh Steam Deck, what you should check for, what you should immediately download, what settings you should pay attention to, because I'm not going to have this experience again with the original Steam Deck, I hope. So a lot of these are definitely going to be for first-time Steam Deck users, but I'll throw some in there for people who have had one for a while because I've had one for 3 years now. So I'm basically splitting the difference. So with the intro out of the way, let's cover the first thing you should do when you get your brand new Steam Deck, and that's obviously unbox it and make sure everything is correct. So as far as hardware goes, Steam Deck is great. Valve does a really good job making sure the device is sturdy, well made, and is going to last a long time, but they are not immune by any means to hardware defects out of the box. There are enough people talking about this on Reddit and the Steam discussion forums to make it feel like it's actually worth making sure your Steam Deck is in perfect shape as soon as you get it. So take it out of the box, go through every single button. The trackpads won't work until you turn it on, but you can go through the D-pad, the face buttons, the start and back buttons, the Steam button, the quick access menu button, the 4 back buttons, the triggers, and the bumpers, and make sure they all click, feel, and push exactly the same way. Because if you notice that immediately, you can get this thing RMA'd very quickly without any hassle, but it'll just be that much more annoying if you spend some time gaming on it, download all your stuff, get everything set up, and then have to RMA it, because then you'll be without a Steam Deck you've already used, which would really suck. Thankfully, the shipping times have gotten extremely fast. I ordered this thing on Wednesday. I had it by Friday. The first Steam Deck I ordered took around 2 weeks to get to me, and when I had to RMA it, that was a month without my Steam Deck. So kudos to Valve for improving the shipping times, but still, you should definitely manhandle your Steam Deck and try and see if anything is out of order with it, because it's just easier to fix before you turn it on. The second thing you're going to have to do immediately is plug it in, not because the battery is going to be dead or anything, but because it ships in battery safe mode, which is probably because of all those battery explosions that have been happening in the mail. Basically, you have to plug it in before it'll even turn on. So grab the charger that came with it, or if you bought a third-party one before it even arrived, plug it in, turn it on, and you'll have to wait a minute or two for that first boot. So if you just see a black screen, don't get scared or alarmed or anything. It's just doing its first time checks or whatever it has to do. I think you'll hear the fan turn on before you actually see anything on the screen. So if you hear that little sound when you push the button, that means everything is in order. It should be pretty quick before you see the Steam Deck logo. The next thing you should definitely do is go into settings and then go to system and then check for an update. Even though mine downloaded an update when I logged in for the first time and installed it and restarted, it had another update that was super quick and easy to install. I'd imagine it's probably the Steam client update, so like the actual storefront, not actually a full Steam OS update, but you're going to want to do that just to make sure you're at the latest version of Steam OS. I would also stay away from the beta if this is your first time using a Steam Deck, or even if you're a seasoned vet, mainly because even though they're pretty good about not letting things slip through with the beta, there's always a chance. Like I ran into an issue a couple of years ago where I updated to a beta to get some new features, and then every game I played had stuttering. I spent my whole vacation, when I had a ton of time to play games, looking through websites trying to see why specific games were stuttering, and then I had the genius idea to go back to stable and it fixed everything. So I wasted a ton of time. I would recommend just staying on stable. Next up, you're going to want to download some games, and I think you can prioritize this. The Steam Deck is excellent for indie games. I've been playing a game called Sulfur, which I'm pretty sure is a couple of gigabytes or less. I would download that first. That's exactly what I did, like any game that's that size, because you can game on it immediately if you download a smaller title, something like Hades, something like Zombieville USA 3D, you know, something that's not going to take an hour and a half to download because it's 70 gigabytes and then it has to download shaders. And then you put your Steam Deck down at that first beautiful moment when you first open it, you want to game on it immediately. So prioritize the smaller games first before the bigger ones. And then when you go to bed that night, that's when you download the big ones. Just leave it plugged in because it'll download. And then when the download is finished, the screen will turn off. So you're not going to run into any issues where it stays on overnight. So yeah, download some games. The next thing you should do is mess around with customizations. Now, it's not nearly as bad as the Nintendo Switch, which has zero customization, but it's not as good as like a PlayStation 4, which would allow you to change themes. It's like basically in the middle of those two devices, but you can switch the keyboard theme. The deck ships with a few different options that are just different colors, but there's a point store, which you get points for buying games on Steam. So if this is not your first Steam purchase, you probably have a ton, but you got a head start by buying the Steam Deck itself. So you should have enough Steam points to buy a few keyboards. My favorite one is the OLED one. It only came with the limited edition OLED. It's black and orange. So that's the one that applies to all my Steam Decks because I unlocked it, but there's still some cool options there for you. And then you can also change the boot up animation that plays when you turn on your Steam Deck. So if you go down to customization, it's hidden there. There are also a few that came with the Steam Deck. I'm partial to the one that's the original big picture mode because when I downloaded that for the first time, I saw the future. It took a lot longer to get there than I would have liked, but it was awesome seeing that sweet boot up menu when you turn on big picture mode. So I like that one. I also got a custom one that came with my limited edition Steam Deck. So I turned that on. There's game ones you can download for Steam points for The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2, God of War Ragnarok, Dead Cells, Vampire Survivors, and Elden Ring. There might even be a couple more. There's some cool ones that play around with the OLED screen. The coolest thing you can do is download all of them and then switch it to shuffle, so you'll see a random one every time. But yeah, as far as customization goes, that's about all you can do with the layout and everything of the Steam Deck, but it's still pretty cool. But that about covers everything I would do in game mode. So now let's switch over to desktop, because if you didn't know this, your Steam Deck is a PC and it has a full desktop that you can interact with. So the easiest way to do this is to hit the power button, well, hold it, and then scroll down to switch to desktop and hit A, or you can hit the Steam button, pull up that side menu, scroll down to power, and then you get to the same menu and switch to desktop. Once you're in the desktop, click on the Firefox icon. It'll take you to the Discover Store, which is like the Steam Deck's app store that's separate from Steam. It'll download Firefox, so then you've got a browser. And then when you're in the Discover Store, also search the word Proton Up and download Proton Up QT. This is going to be essential for older games on the Steam Deck or even some brand new ones because it'll let you install Proton GE. Essentially, Proton GE is a version of Proton that's unofficial. Like a guy makes it himself and he puts in all the extra stuff that Valve can't license. So it gives you the ability to add in different things that regular Proton won't do. Once you install Proton Up, open it up, select the latest version of Proton GE, click install, and then once you've done that, when you're back in game mode, if you go to a game's properties, you can go down to compatibility and switch it to that Proton GE version. I would just download the latest one because it includes every aspect of all the other versions of Proton GE, but you're going to want that just for specific games. Once you've got Firefox and Proton Up installed, the next thing you're going to want to do is go to Firefox and then go to emudeck.com, emudeck.com, download that, drag it to your desktop, double click it and install it, because once you install that, you suddenly have access to literally every emulator under the sun. PS1, PS2, PSP, Nintendo DS, Nintendo GBA, Nintendo Game Boy, everything. It comes with everything. It sets them all up. The only extra step you have to do after it's installed is find the BIOS files for all the different emulators. I can't show you how to do that, but if you've ever set up an emulator, it's pretty damn easy to find them. Then once you download your ROMs, you just drag them to the specific folders and everything is configured. That's what makes EmuDeck so damn great. It configures everything for you, from controller layouts to video properties, like anything that would stop you from playing emulated games, it does for you. I've played a ton of PS1 games. I've played a ton of GBA games. I've played a ton of DS games. Those are sick because the Steam Deck has a touch screen. So it puts the top screen big and then the bottom screen little, and you can actually use it like a touch screen. And then you just use the triggers to flip which one's big. There are different layouts. Like, it's awesome. Emulation is incredible on the Steam Deck. The only consoles you're going to have trouble running are 360 and and PS3. I haven't messed around with those, but all the way up to PS2, I've had no issues. And going back to the glory days of games that didn't have microtransactions and were focused on gameplay, but also being able to run them at a full 60 FPS, it really does not get better than that. So yeah, you're gonna want to install EmuDeck right away. That's really all I would do in desktop mode. So let's switch back to game mode because there's some things I want to talk about related to accessories. So your Steam Deck, depending on which one you buy, has an SSD in it, unless you got the 64 gig version. If you got the 64 gig version, you should just buy a 2230 drive. Like, you can get them at Micro Center, you can get them at Amazon. They're less than $100 now. It's so easy to just take the back off your Steam Deck, unplug the battery, and swap out the SSD. Then all you need to do is download the Steam Deck repair image, which you can find through Google, and then you just install that with SteamOS, and then you're good to go. Then you've got a terabyte of fast storage. The 64 gig version is not an SSD, and it's kind of slow, and it's only 64 gigabytes. No matter what drive you put in there, you're probably going to want a micro SD card. A lot of people are looking at micro SD Express cards because those are the only ones compatible with the Nintendo Switch. And when you hear Express, you probably think they're fast. The Steam Deck can't take advantage of the speed of an Express card. So go for a tier lower than that. If you want to get a terabyte or 2 terabytes, you're going to spend a little over $100, but it's worth it for the extra storage. Now, a few games are going to run into issues with that, like Diablo 4, for example. It installs patches so slow to the SD card, but out of all the games I've tried, that's the only one that patches slow on the SD card. So it doesn't really matter whether you use the SSD or the SD card. I tend to put games that are bigger, like Ghost of Tsushima, for example, on the SSD, just so they can get accessed a lot faster. But I think it's just placebo at that point. If you have an SD card in your console, it's going to work just fine. You should probably also invest in either a dock or a Steam Deck stand. I used to recommend the Steam Deck's official dock because even though it's expensive, it comes with an extra charger, which you can never have too many chargers. I've just had so many issues with the Steam Deck's official dock, and even doing simple things like updating it are a pain in the ass because you have to unplug everything you leave plugged into it except for the power cord in your Steam Deck itself. And even then, the updates seem to fail more often than not. I would go for one from JSOX. I have every dock they've ever made. They're also a lot cheaper and they all just work fine. I use one I have laying around as like a PC USB-C hub, and it's still holding strong. It gets a little warm sometimes, but like for the price that they are, it's not that big of a deal. If you're missing the Nintendo Switch's kickstand, you can also grab the Kill Switch from dbrand. You can get that bundled with skins. They have a grass textured one that they did for April Fool's Day that they just put out recently. I think that's pretty cool, but if you just want the Kill Switch, I think it's like $60 or so, but it's a really premium, well-machined hard shell that comes with a little kickstand attachment. So if you are using a controller and you don't want to pick up a dock or a stand, I mean, get a Kill Switch. It has a kickstand built in. Or I've seen people go on Amazon and get those ones that you can stick on the back of a phone that like slide out. They're like 3D printed. They're like $5. Those work as well. If you want a kickstand, you got plenty of options out there. I'm very partial to the Kill Switch though. I think it's pretty cool. And as far as accessories go, if you bought an LCD model, you're probably going to want a tempered glass screen protector. These things are as low as like $6 or $7 now, and a lot of them come with a little frame that clips onto your Steam Deck that'll make it so the protector goes on absolutely perfect every try. And a lot of them come with multiple protectors in case you break one or you screw up putting it on. It's such a good investment for how cheap it is because it'll protect your Steam Deck from scratches. If you got the OLED one with the anti-glare etched glass on it, that thing does not scratch. I think it's virtually impossible to scratch that screen. I've used my limited edition one for over a year and I've never seen a scratch on it, and it doesn't even collect fingerprints. So as far as that's concerned, if you have the LCD model, get a screen protector. If you don't worry about it. Another cheap accessory I would invest in is an L-shaped USB-C adapter. If you haven't noticed, the Steam Deck only has one USB-C port. It's on top of the Steam Deck. So if you use the cable, it hangs off the back, and if you're playing with it in front of your head, like you're on the couch or in bed or something, that cord rests on the end of your hand, and it's super irritating. But if you get one of those L-shaped USB-C adapters and just pop it on the end of the charger, it makes it shoot out the back perfectly straight, so you never feel So you never feel the cable, it never gets in the way, and that's awesome. It's like $5 for 2 of those from JSOX, and I think that's also incredibly worth it. Oh, and this accessory I've been dying to recommend, the SteelSeries Game Buds. I have tried every pair of gaming earbuds under the sun, and none of them come anywhere close to the SteelSeries Game Buds. They're a little over $100, but they are so worth it. They come with a USB-C adapter that fits in their AirPod size case, and then you just put that on top of your Steam Deck and bam, you get latency-free audio, and they sound so good. They sent them to me around Christmas. I use them all the time with the Steam Deck and my main gaming PC. They don't forget pairing, and they can pair with Bluetooth. So if you're looking for AirPods replacements, they sound just as good as regular AirPods in my opinion. They're the best investment you can make if you're looking for headphones. So yeah, that's everything I would do and buy for a fresh Steam Deck. I know a lot of you out there already have Steam Decks because, you know, people come back and watch the channel, but I've also noticed a lot of new people coming in lately. So if you're a veteran viewer and you stuck around till the end, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Once again, 70% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed, so please help me out and subscribe to the channel. That's all I got for you. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape the fuck on.